All right, welcome to the show. Let's get right into it here as I briefly sideline for a little bossa nova to open the day for you folks. So we did get some news on the stimulus yesterday, and I see a bunch of YouTubers coming on and like dragging it out and then not giving any information. But here's the information I have for you. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer did meet with Steve Mnuchin and Mr. Meadows there yesterday during the day, and there was some movement in the whole situation. The White House did propose that they pay an extra $400 for the enhanced stimulus up through December 21st, and so they had moved from their initial offer of $200 for 2 months and then replacing 70% of people's wages to a flat $400, and then through December 21st. And also the second big part of it was to stop any evictions or foreclosures through December 21st once again. Now, so this was real movement. We've seen yesterday, Mitch McConnell came out and said that they will continue the session going into next week if this is not resolved by by Friday tomorrow, but they have said they're going to set a deadline of tomorrow to get this done. So I think there's a more than likely chance that we get an announcement tomorrow, that being Friday, about this stimulus. Now, this is important to your trading world because expect to see a move in the market, and most likely from what we've been seeing now, it would be up, but I can't obviously guarantee the future. Also, this is a potential for a vol crush. Remember, anytime you are increasing the certainty, Stim did not pass this morning as far as I know. I'll look at the headlines right now, but there was movement yesterday. And I think we would see the market making a big reaction if we had new news this morning. But yesterday was, I think, the 12th meeting between Democratic leaders and the White House. And there was movement. They think that it will get done today. And there's mixed media reports here now. I'm seeing this Fortune article saying extremely doubtful Americans will get a second stimulus check or enhanced employment. I don't see that as happening. I mean, I do see it as them getting, I think the most likely thing actually will be the 600 will continue, as Mitch McConnell has recently stated that he would be open to continuing the $600 for some time period. Now, remember, regardless of your political viewpoints here, if there is some chance that the Republicans will lose the Senate going forward here when elections come out. And nobody wants to be the person who denied the public to get that $600. So once again, there was movement. The newest news I have is there was movement yesterday, finally. But the sticking points are still, I don't think the $600 is the major sticking point. The major sticking point is whether they just kind of make it so you don't have to pay the payments for now, but you still owe the back payments for mortgages and whatnot, or some sort of relief. Now, remember, this is a two-sided transaction. So, to relieve somebody who owes part of a mortgage or some rent is to actually injure the person who actually owns the property. In the case of renters, if landlords can't get paid, then that threatens their financial situation. And in a sense, the landlord is the one taking a bigger risk than the renter. So, I personally am not really in favor of just forgiving these payments for the renter and putting it on the landlord, because the landlord likely isn't in any better situation financially than the renter. So that's a sticking point of all this. It's also, as you've heard the president say, the levels of relief to local governments. And there is the case of the post office. Now, I have a kind of a cynical view of things, but to me it seems that the president is trying to do everything he can to make it the post office slower and unable to cope with potential vote by mail stuff. So it seems like they're trying to it seems like he's trying to suppress the vote by making it more and more difficult for vote by mail to work. So first he's coming out and saying publicly, this is a terrible idea. There's tons of fraud on vote by mail. And then secondly, he's trying to hobble the post office so that they deliver mail slower and slower to make it a self-fulfilling prophecy on his part. I believe that if the president thought that vote by mail would help the Republicans and him being reelected, then he would be maximally trying to fund the post office and make sure everything's working smoothly and fund the states to help them. But what's actually happening is obviously the president believes that vote by mail will not help him, and thus part of the stimulus is Democrats asking for help with money to make sure the elections work smoothly, money to help state municipalities to cope with the election. Think about the problems of the election. Usually, at least in my town, there's volunteers who go to the polling. They volunteer to man the polling spots, and people don't want to expose themselves to the virus. So there's less volunteers this year than there usually would be. But as I said, regardless of your political standpoint, the post office is, and funding of the post office is a sticking point here in the negotiation for the stimulus. Also, we've had in the news pushback to the president having himself become officially the candidate in the White House. Personally, I don't have a problem with the president doing this from the White House because although there's some conflict of interest of using the White House for political means, what else can you do at this point? You have to figure out the safest way to have this announcement. And the White House, at least the security's there. And everybody feels comfortable with doing it there. You don't have to have a huge crowd with it. What options does the president really have as to where, they've already canceled the Republican National Convention. So personally, I don't have a problem with the president going ahead and announcing his candidacy officially from the White House. But that is another sticking point. We've also had in the news that big explosion in Beirut. I have a friend who lives there, and I definitely did go and check in on her over there. Also, I know there's some fans of the show. I used to play in my intro the theme song for the Morse television show, long-running British detective show, which ended in 2000. Then there was a spin-off called Lewis. Now the prequel show Endeavor is being released in the United States, I believe, today for season 7. So check that out. It's once again a TV show called Endeavor. I know it's getting to be kind of slim pickings for new TV shows right now. All right, so let's go to the numbers really quickly. Really not a stellar day for I've been talking about coming in short Lululemon a lot, and luckily I did not come in short yesterday. However, I did get short a little after the open, and that did not work out well, as Lululemon was up, I think, at one point $15 yesterday. Now, we've talked a little bit about the stimulus stuff and what's going on in Congress. Let's talk about how it affects your positions. From my understanding, the market is making the assumption that we will get a stimulus package. I don't see us. The only thing I think, even if it gets delayed from Friday, the market still is expecting this to happen for sure. It would be a disaster for the market if this didn't happen eventually. But there's not a specific moment where it seems like we sort of lose hope. So if it drags through Friday into Monday, I don't necessarily see the market acting negatively. I've been very bearish for a while, but the VIX has held up relatively well. It was down a little bit yesterday, but now back up a little bit. We really haven't gotten that big collapse yet. So if you're still long Spencer, you're definitely hanging in there. I think last we talked, the VIX is probably down a point and change since we last talked on that, and VXX is probably down a point or a point and a half, 2 points. UVXY down 2 points, definitely. I think it was 25 last we talked, but this stuff hanging in there pretty well, considering what's been going on and what has been going on. Well, the Nasdaq's been making new highs, but there haven't been, it hasn't been like ripper days up. We haven't seen like up 200, up 300 point days. We've seen like, up 40 point days lately, as the market kind of has slowed down a little bit. Although Lululemon was way up yesterday, other stocks in the market kind of sideways. If we look at Tesla, for example, it's been kind of sideways. Apple obviously made that big move last week and has been was up a little bit yesterday. Again, Apple just an amazing monster of a stock. And once again, I would expect it on the split to actually move higher, not because a split makes something move higher, but just because of the added publicity to the stock. And in people's minds, $100 stock seems more affordable than a $400 stock, and thus people buy it. It's really a psychological thing with Apple splitting. Obviously, AMD has had this huge rally, and I believe I was reading a little bit about AMD actually yesterday, and I guess they kind of have a little bit of an edge for a few months on Intel here. The chip wars are a story of always emerging technology trying to get a little bit more speed and lowering your speed. Obviously, there's some sort of wall that you reach at some point, and chips haven't. I guess you could debate it, but chips haven't changed a super lot, or PCs haven't changed a super lot in the last year or so. But there's always been the fight between AMD and Intel for the domination of PCs. A lot of these companies now, like for example, IBM, your IBMs and your Amazons have, and your Microsofts have focused and have gotten most of their profitability from the cloud. And AMD and Intel obviously selling chips to the companies that are running these big cloud servers, as well as to just the regular retail public. We had that big spike in graphics card, your NVIDIAs and whatnot, when we had the Bitcoin miners, but that's backed off a little bit now. Speaking of Bitcoin, Bitcoin is back up over $10,000 again. Always surprises me when Bitcoin remains strong. If we pull up Bitcoin right now, we see it. Let's see what the latest is. Yeah, just doesn't really go away. It hasn't. My prediction that Bitcoin was just going to kind of fade into obscurity hasn't happened, at least yet, as we see Bitcoin, $11,700. I still am extremely hesitant to throw money at Bitcoin just because I don't know how to value it. I don't understand it. I think that competing products will dilute it at some point, and obviously it hasn't been the gangbusters product that the exchanges predicted, and I think it was going to be this new darling of a bunch of exchanges to rival the VIX in volume and whatnot. That really hasn't happened, but Bitcoin has hung in there, as we've seen the recent erosion of the dollar, and as evidenced by the rally in gold. Gold was up like 35 yesterday, and gold up again today. Gold making this huge move. Once again, this doesn't surprise me, and if I were trading gold, which I don't, but if I were, I would not be defending any sort of price level and getting short here because, this has the potential to run a lot. There's no reason why gold can't continue to move higher here, so I certainly would not be picking a point to short this. All right, so once the stimulus comes out, we could see a down move in the VIX, but, my feeling is that we're going to get a down move in the market at some point, and once the news is out with the stimulus and there's nothing like in the immediate horizon for the markets, I think pessimism could come in and we could see a down move. But once again, what do I know? Your guess is really as good as mine when we're talking about the future. The last thing that I like to see is people confidently say what is going to happen in the future, because that's silly. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. And to say with authority what's going to happen in the future is really just making a guess. Dirk says, I don't see Apple stopping till it hits at least $2 trillion. Yeah, possible. Yeah, let's talk about the VIX once again. It's been an awful year, whichever way you want to look at it. It's been an awful year for being short the VIX. VXX, we haven't taken out new lows. We haven't seen a bunch of reverse splits. We did see one reverse split in TVIX this year, but really these products, I mean, what has the VIX really done, or these VIX ETPs really done this year? Not a whole lot. If we look, where were we in VXX at this point last year? This has just been we had several good years for these products, but this has just been a bad year for VIX products. And I don't really see that changing a whole lot. There's mixed views, certainly, in where we go from here in the VIX. But if we go to the yearly chart, let's go to the 3-year. All right, so there's the 3-year, and we see the low here of $13 in VXX. We are double the low right now, and obviously we've made some progress heading back towards the low, but still we are double the low. So that just does not. That speaks to the fact that this has not been a good year to be short the VIX at all. In fact, it's been a year to be. Well, you could have made money both ways, and we see that it's this chart really is a great time period to illustrate. Let me back it out. Let me half this time period. Here you can see it certainly could continue lower here, right? We're trending lower. And we do have contango if we pull up the VIX central chart. However, there is a lot going on, and the fact that this term structure, we always talk about how the term structure is not predictive. However, in this case, this might be the exception here, where it has been sort of predictive, as we see just this big pop up into the election here, right? And everything holding firm up into the election here. The perception from a lot of people is that the Democrats coming into power would not be good for the markets. I don't think that the data historically really bears that out. But either way, I don't think this market has really absorbed just the seriousness of the situation with the virus. And people who are investors seem detached from the overall economy in many ways. It's like they get in their investor mindset and they are just, of course, cheerleading their investments. And I think there's going to be a reckoning with this market. I still feel that way. Obviously, it has not been a profitable situation to be short the market. It usually is not. But I continue to be in cash and very concerned about this market. A reckoning is coming. I don't know when it will be, but my strategy has been to buy way out of the money puts and then sell at the money premium. So thus I'm flat my deltas, but if we do gap lower, then I do have puts down below, just to show you how that kind of shakes out in Lululemon. Here is my position in Lululemon right now. And, the front week, once it gets to be like 1 or 2 days till the front week expiration, I've got a bunch of these front week puts. As we look at the front week, sorry, so, I'm not a ton of puts, but I've got, 20 puts or something down below, and just sort of short some at the money to kind of finance it. That's kind of where I am in Lululemon right now. All right, so there you go. I'm going to let you go for the opening. We've got about 9 minutes till the open today in the markets, and I would just be aware and keep checking back your news feed, because what will happen is the president will call a joint news conference with party leaders, and they will announce the stimulus at some point when the stimulus happens. And this, I don't think this will happen out of the blue, because I think they have to schedule it and make an announcement that they're all going to come together to make this announcement. So you'll see a news conference scheduled, and then that announcement made when the stimulus appears. But it appears that we have had movement. It's taking forever. That's why there's a skeleton in my thumbnail here, that this is taking a long time, but it appears like more likely than not, it will happen tomorrow, an announcement of the stimulus package. Thank you for watching, and continue to keep it here. Please subscribe and like the video. Leaving a comment really helps me out. And I will see you next time on the Short Vol Show Live. Bye-bye.